Liquid call of an oriole. Gorgeous bird song in the morning. Maybe we find something now. We're going to stop and listen to this dawn chorus. Overcast and a little bit cool this morning. Not really chilly, just cool temperatures. I'd say it's probably the coolest I've ever felt for January. And maybe once or twice you get a cool temperature after some rain, and you get a bit of wind chill factor. It kind of drops temperature, but we haven't had any rain, and it's just, I don't know, just quite cool in the morning, especially going through some of the dips. I've no doubt things will warm up in the next week or so with February coming. February is normally quite a hot month wherever you are in Africa. Well, my name is Mark, Jason is on camera, Brian and the thumb in final control, and we are starting with, guess what? I think we have nowhere else to go but to go and check up on those two Matimba lions and see what's going on there, and maybe if we can, and if we're lucky, we can catch up with young Kunyuma and see if he's still around. I'm wondering what would have happened last night, so I think we might get some clues, but there's a good chance we might never know. I'm quite sure hyena would have come along last night. Lion tracks here, but this might have been where they came in when they hunted yesterday. Interesting. Big male lion tracks, but they're not very fresh, and they're right on the edge. Cars have clearly driven over them. The wildebeest were down the bottom on the western edge. Welcome to Djuma Game Reserve. This is WildEarth, and we're coming to you live from this special corner of the Greater Kruger National Park here in South Africa. This has been a wildlife area for since time began. Hyena tracks heading in our direction, going straight down there. Morning news is printed on the road, the tracks of animals, and we have to try and decipher who's new and who's old, who's been here before and who set foot here last night. Almost like printing the newspaper each day on yesterday's ink over yesterday's print, but having an ink that fades each day. Kind of how I like it is, that eventually your 3 and 4 day old ink is getting very, very grey, almost turning pale, hardly discernible. And then if you can imagine, if it rains or you get a heavy wind, it blows all the ink away. Except in this case, the ink of the animal tracks, the ink is art. The inks are ink, singular is. inks plural, because you get different types of ink here. You get big lion paw print ink. You get very, very soft pastel bird footprint ink. I hope you know what I'm talking about. Making any sense? Please feel free to write to us at WildEarth, or sorry, questions@wildearth.tv on our WildEarth email, and also Twitter. You can tweet #Safari Live. #Juma, #Live Drive, #Lion, #Leopard, #Karula, #Quarantine, etc. Questions, etc. But no, questions to #Safari Live. Hyena track and civet track. Quite get to see the buffalo kill yesterday. We were close to the lions. We did spend maybe a bit more time with Numa, the leopard. We were actually with him just down this little track on our left. But first we're going to go the other side and see hyena tracks walking away now. See if there's anything to be seen there as far as the lion are concerned. We might see some, well, we might see the other little cats. Some of us were in disbelief yesterday when we heard William from Duma. He was out on a staff drive and we heard him saying that there was a leopard with the lion. It wasn't a case of not trusting what he was saying, it was just a case of disbelief. What leopard is going to be so bold as to show up where two big male lions are on the buffalo kill? Well, our answer is the young leopard, who is considered a shy young leopard, as his name suggests. What a wonderful smell in the morning. This is where a lion was sleeping. One of them was on the road here. There was a lion sleeping on this road right here quite recently. I'm wondering if they haven't left. Why he would have come up from there. Unless it was chasing hyena away, that could have been it. This looks like this is where the commotion happened. Is this where you found the drag marks and things?
The drag marks were just behind us.
Just behind us. But it looks like this is... You can see there was a commotion here, just under the tree. There's a lot of debris on the road over here, and a lot of flattened grasses. Probably where they started to attack. I believe it's a cow. I believe it's a female buffalo. The juvenile batelier in a tree to the right. There was a juvenile batelier and a corner eagle sitting in trees. There, what's that? That's a lion. That is a big male lion. And he's walking down towards his kill. That is where it was. They seem to have been dragging it around quite a bit. There's a patch where there's been something sleeping under a bush. don't know if you can just quickly turn to that. I don't know whether it's been lion or hyena was curled up under here, but a lovely little round patch of flattened grass, mostly obscured by the Land Rover. So we've got some branches in the way. I'm still walking down into the drainage line. So far I can't see a leopard in a tree yet. Here's the kill. They've pretty much finished it by the looks of things. Very little left. The skull, not a very big buffalo. I would imagine, I'd guess that maybe the hyena were here and it's been disarticulated, and bits of bone, bits of vertebra. Let's see if we can get in through the bottom here. Don't need to dwell on the gruesome side of things. Come here and go back to the tree. Oops. Good morning to Ray in Las Vegas. I'm not going to go through there. Looks like he wants to come this way, this big male. So we're just going to try and get to see him from this angle if we can. Really, a little bit of a glimpse. We'll have to go in the other side where we went in to see Kanuma yesterday. If we're going to try and see him. There's no way for me to get through here. Ray wants to know if the worst part of our job is... Oh wait, we can maybe get through here. There's a good place. We can sneak in here maybe. Morning, Sabuti. Yeah. One of the things about this is that one gets used to it. I mean, it's pungent, it's harsh. It's not only the smell of the kill, it's the smell of a whole host of things. What's this buffalo thorn? One brother fast asleep and well, he's can't even see his expression. He's directly behind this bush. You can just see a little bit of hair moving. So let's try and... We're going to have to get out and come around. Okay, let's... Especially when there are other predators that come in. Mind that buffalo thorn again. The feces, the smell of feces, the smell of not only them, but then there's also hyena that come in. And while the smell of feces is pretty bad on its own, the one thing one doesn't want to do is, like I did yesterday, is I think I drove over something. And I guess in a sense it's like squishing dog poop. Inadvertently. You don't really smell it until it's squashed. Sorry to paint such a graphic image this time of the morning, but Ray, you asked. But a day-old carcass is nothing. Try a week-old carcass. That's different. or anything more than 2 or 3 days. You need some Vicks vapor rub under the nose, or you just try very hard to breathe through your mouth. There's a number of different sized hyenas that have been walking around, and I reckon these boys must have been quite busy chasing hyena around yesterday. Email from P. Jane. Or is that? Now we're getting a whiff. Right there somewhere. If a buffalo horn breaks off, does it bleed? Is it then susceptible to infection? There he is. Just for now. Fortunately he's blinking, except his eyes are obscured by grasses, so let's just try move a little bit there. And his ears aren't flat and facing back, so he's not stressed in any way. He's not frowning. You don't ever want to have a lion frown when you're coming in, because that means they're stressing out a little bit. Does it bleed? Not really, Jane, because it's the inner workings of the bone underneath the keratin outside. The horn covering of the horn is almost pure bone, part of the skull, extension of the skull. It's kind of honeycombed in the center, and I imagine that it might be a bit of marrow type consistency inside some of that honeycombing. I don't think so though. And while I've seen animals with broken horns, I've never really seen from up close, but I wouldn't imagine it bleeds. I can't imagine blood vessels existing within the bone like that, and there are no blood vessels between the bone and the keratin, the horn. A little bit of sunshine coming. I would imagine that it is maybe quite sensitive, or quite, I suppose it largely depends on how far down it breaks. I've seen impala horns that break, it look like they break right down at the base of the skull, and I would imagine that would make it rather sensitive, not really painful. I think for most things we don't really have that much of a nerve network within the skull part of things. The actual skull, the actual bone part of the skull. I think that's why the art of trepanning has been attempted in the past, because the skull, even open brain surgery, if anything, a patient I think might feel the scalp being touched, but certainly not the skull, the bone itself. and that is what the horns are. They're part of the skull, merely covered in the horn substance, keratin. There's not much chance of that little leopard being here, I don't think. But we'll soon find out. I want to take a drive now. We're going to do a little... Okay. Getting a whiff of that now. So we'll take a drive. I want to drive, sort of do a little bit of a loop around and see if there are any leopard tracks coming out of what we call a block. It would be this block of bushveld that we're in, that is bordered on the sort of western side by Philemon's Dip, to the north Quarantine and the road going down to Twin Dams Road, and then to the east Twin Dams Road coming up to Chelapan, and from Chelapan to Weaver's Nest here is the southern edge of this big block of bushveld that has no roads in it. And it'd be nice to see if this young male leopard has come out onto any of these roads, and also to see what else might have come in. Then after that we want to take a ride up towards Impala Plains and see, because the dam where those other lion were yesterday is fairly close to Impala Plains, just west of it in fact, and so we want to go and have a look, see if they came out onto Triple M, or maybe they're there. So let's go and take a little ride. We're going to maybe come back in here periodically during the morning, or at least we will during the day. But so far not much happening. They seem to have pretty much finished feeding for now. There wasn't really that much that they could have fed on. So if anything, they'll probably maybe sleep it off during the day for the rest of the day. And then maybe move on tonight. Ellie's for me. Morning, Ellie's for me. Ellie's for you. Not Ellie's for me, but Ellie's for me. I think I tried to come through here, but I wanted to show you this tawny eagle, so let's just stop here. And I'm going to answer this question while Jason tries to zoom in on this. Coming to find a scrap or two. And this beautiful marula tree that's built for, or rather grew especially for leopard. So the sear stops, or rather the gape of this eagle, the gape stops below the eye.
Wait, are we looking at different eagles?
Wow, that one.
Yeah, I'm looking at that one. That's not in. Never mind. I must not be looking.
What were you looking at?
That one?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
And then I was just looking at a butterfly. Sorry.
Okay.
Something that, and I'm just looking at what it's flying around while I'm talking and thinking of eagles. It looks like it could be a young mahogany. Actually. I thought I was talking quite loud for a change. The gape of the mouth extending to below the eye rather than beyond the eye, which makes it, I guess it differentiates this particular eagle from the steppe eagle. But they're two different colors, sort of lighter body and the darker wings, almost a giveaway for a tawny eagle. Ellie's for me asking, doesn't the meat go rancid on a kill after a couple of days? And what is it about a lion's stomach that allows them to eat that meat in that state? Well, yes, it does go rancid. That's what we've been mentioning now, is that sometimes after a couple of days it becomes, especially if it's really hot and it's a fairly large carcass. I mean, I've known a giraffe carcass, put line on a giraffe carcass for up to a week, and extremely hot temperatures and tsetse flies and other flies, and it becomes quite unpleasant. But excuse me, I'm going to have to pause here because say hello to Andrew. At last.
How are you doing? Hello everyone.
Hello everyone.
Good. Is Ngala there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting here where I came out.
We're here?
Yeah.
Alright, good.
Or just follow.
Okay.
There's not much left of that Dinyari.
I hear another Ngala pulling in the north.
Is it? They're
low.
not even looking.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're maybe low down. I heard it like when I was
okay.
this morning.
There's also another eagle further on.
Okay.
Tawny by the looks of things.
Alright. Talking about Matimba 3 of them and the breakaway somewhere near Safari camp. Yeah.
Oh. I've got the wrong vehicle today.
Yeah, I see. I also don't have a Dutch channel, but then I might go later when everybody's done.
Yeah. But I don't get a broadcast signal from there, so maybe this afternoon we'll be lucky to get there.
Okay. Alright.
Because I'm sure they're not going to go anywhere.
Alright.
But Majingiland.
Yeah, the same in Matimba.
That's
3 or something like that.
interesting that they've come this far, because they were down at Lusaba and Yati. That's fine.
They came far, right?
Yeah.
Alright.
Alright, have a lovely morning.
Okay.
And see you a bit later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. What makes what makes them able to digest that kind of thing? Well, I guess it's the stomach acid that they have, and the bacteria, I suppose the good types of bacteria that they have in their stomach that combat the kind of bacteria that one gets on a carcass after a few days. It's a few million years of adaptation to a kind of lifestyle that they live, that they can't afford to have or to be affected by the bacteria associated with rotting meat. Hyena too, leopard as well. So Andrew telling me that somewhere on Arathusa, those breakaway lion are somewhere near Arathusa with 3 of the Machingilans that must have come back to the northeast. Well, I guess I made the mistake of bringing Jigger this morning. Oh, baby elephant tracks. But Scott had to deal with the tyre issue on Wendy, and we'll have Wendy back this afternoon with Scott, and we'll see. Maybe I'll convince Scott that I want to take Wendy because I want to go and see this breakaway plough. It might be my only chance to see them. Some elephant tracks here going back the other way. Ellen in Illinois. Morning, Ellen. Why didn't we going to go and have a look at that weaver bird colony and that snake? Questions about the snake in the tree from yesterday. And Ellen wants to know, why didn't the snake move to another branch or drop out of the tree? Ordinarily, Ellen, a snake would drop out of the tree. Every time I've ever seen snakes attacking weaver colonies, they're even the most venomous of all snakes, the worm slug, one of the most venomous. However, unfortunately I didn't watch it. Ellen was saying, why did the snake just hang there and let the weaver birds have their way, let them peck at it like they did? I think, Ellen, at some point that snake must have been injured enough so that when evidently its tail got caught on a thorn, or somehow its tail got hooked up, and that could have been. Or you see, ordinarily a snake would move through a tree, the thorns wouldn't affect it at all. But if a snake is in a tree and a bird pecks at it, the snake has this recoil action that I would imagine would have been one of the causes of the tail, especially the tail, trying to curl around and maybe grasp something, being as prehensile as it is. Getting caught in a thorn and then maybe striking out at a bird in defense, or in some way losing its grip on a branch by being attacked and being so out of breath and so weakened by the attack that it was hanging and it wasn't able to either lift itself or drop down, and perhaps by then maybe the fatal blow had already been struck. By the time I saw it yesterday afternoon, the face and the head of that bird was red, blood red. I mean, it wasn't physically bleeding, but you could see the bruising, because that's how, especially the underneath of the jaw, you could see how much bruising there was from being pecked all the time. And it goes with what I've said quite often, is that facing a predator doesn't really have much chance to catch something. And being mobbed like that, it would have been a miracle if that snake actually managed to grab hold of one of those birds that was flying at it in that way. Of course, as I mentioned, I didn't see any part of that. So unfortunately, I can't really comment with certainty. I can only tell you what I imagine might have happened. I guess a good chance that there is archive footage of that. I'll need to look at that. It'd be interesting to watch, actually. I don't know what's happened with our internet though, because I can't seem to even load the basic YouTube clip. It lets me do some stuff on email and things, but it just doesn't have a strong enough bandwidth to load clips at the moment. Maybe it's my computer. Or I can try on the phone. Turning into a lovely morning. A little bit of sunshine. Hello Marion in Australia. Good afternoon to you, Marion. Love to know what part of Australia you're in. There's that Wahlberg. Look, we've got both pairs of the Wahlbergs here today. No, it's not. Sorry, I'm making a mistake. It's the Wahlbergs and a Battalier. And if we can get a little bit around this corner, we'll be able to see both of them. Adelaide in Australia. Hello, Marion. Maybe a little bit forward this side. No, come on, Jigger. Now I can't see the Battalier very well. Pale-faced Wahlbergs with his back to us, that I think has been around Djuma for many, many years. And just below that a Battalier. I wonder why a Battalier is here. Marion in Adelaide wanted to know how much a lion could consume in a day. I don't know, Marion. A lot. At least an impala's worth. That's a lot of meat. Many kilograms. I couldn't give you a figure. I really couldn't give you a figure. But it's not to a large extent it's sort of filling up at one sitting as much as they can. They'll gorge themselves in one sitting and then sleep that off for a while, and then as soon as they wake up they'll no doubt need to toilet, and once they've toileted they've made space for some more. But I've never really been a person fond of giving out figures. Well, the lion eats 25 kilograms a day. A lioness doesn't eat as much as a male, and a cub doesn't eat as much as a lioness. And there's not really, I guess there's an average. Can you see the Battalier now? Sorry, or did you get it?
No, the sticks were anyway.
Yeah, but maybe here, just because of this morning light, that beautiful red face of the Battalier snake eagle. That's 3 eagles we've seen already. Let's put it this way, Marion. I'm not sure whether the hyena played a part in the consumption of that buffalo last night and what was left of it, but I think by the time, even if they did, I think those lions pretty much finished off a young female, or could have been maybe a young male, but it didn't look like a very big buffalo, just looking at the size of the skull. And we'll only really know when, if I can go back there in a day or two when those lions are gone and I can go and scratch around and get a better idea. Maybe we can find that skull and I can show you some things on it. But a buffalo that would have weighed a couple of 100 kilograms, practically finished, completely finished, except for some vertebrae. I'm sure the leg bones have been carted off by hyena. Granted, there is a fair amount of weight on the bones and the skull, but it's still, these cats have been through a lot of meat in the 24-hour period. How much was left when you found them?
6%.
So they've been feeding most of the night, previous night, night before last.
That's it.
You found them what time?
I can't remember.
But it was morning drive at any rate.
Morning drive, it was about 7.
Okay. So they'd already been feeding, if it was about 60%, then they'd already been feeding for a couple of hours. By which time they'd already probably consumed more than 20 kilograms of meat each or more. I don't know, I'm sure you'd be able to find in the book the amount of, somebody must have maybe has thrown out a guess as to how much a wild lion eats in a day. You can't do an average either, because they might eat one buffalo a week, and then you divide that by 7, and that's your daily intake. Except on one day they'll eat 20 or 30 or even more, and then on another day they'll eat nothing. So it's not really about averages, it's about how much they can put in their stomach in a day, I guess. And it's a lot. Let's put it this way, that if they're able to eat me, and it probably wouldn't show. As big and round as I am in the middle. I don't see. Adelaide to Pennsylvania. Quite a switch. Brenda, morning to you. Pennsylvania, I would guess. Brenda, you somewhere around about midnight, no doubt. If one thing to know, if there's a hierarchy in a lion pride, well, most certainly there is. There's always the alpha female who pretty much has the say as to where they move, when they move, when they hunt, or rather how they hunt, and she normally is the one that pretty much governs the hunt. Her movements will dictate what the rest of the pride does. She's got no time to speak to them. She's only got time to make facial expressions, ear movements, tail movements. A lot of the reason why you find, hello buffalo, a lot of the reason why you find such distinct markings on animals, like with the lion, the black tips to the ears and the black tip to the tail, so that they can have these subtle body language signals when they're in stalk mode, and another lioness can see merely by the position of her pride mate's ears which animal she's looking at. The expressions on the faces, the markings on the faces, many different aspects to the whole thing. I wonder, are we going to see anything now looking into the sun? Also, are we just going to disturb buffalo if we try and go down to the camera? So we're not going to try it from this angle. Let's go onto the damn wall. I see the geese are there. Hippo. I might have to turn around and face the other way on the damn wall so we can have a look and see whether that snake is still there. I'm sure you can probably see it from the camera. Would be interesting. If it fell down though, it would have fallen into the water, as far as I could tell yesterday. Often when you're with a pride of lion, you'll find how the cubs or other lionesses might get a little bit restless after sleeping and they want to get a move on, and they'll get up and they'll move away, and I think it's the mere fact that they do that that makes the alpha female just stay put. It's almost like with wild dogs, it's the same thing. There has to be one individual that has the say as to when and when they do things. There's a gosling in the road, single gosling. The rest of the family is already on the water. That's how goslings get eaten by eagles. They lag behind. I can hear the geese calling us. seeing that snake. Did you see it from this side? Did you try? Oh, there it is. And they are still, the weavers are still knocking at it. So I'm going to turn around and we can have a look at that. There goes little number 7. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Yeah, this is little goose number 7. Very nonchalant. Yeah, I'm coming, Mom and Dad. Is that the ugly duckling?
Yes.
Okay, some people saying there was a loud snap. I did go over a twig perhaps, but I didn't hear anything. Evidently the mic is sounding a little bit soft now. You mean that kind of snap? I want to see this little one get out of the water. I think maybe... it's not feeling too well. I'm just looking at, you know, healthy goose goslings have got red legs. This little one's left leg is looking a little bit pale, putting a little bit of weight, more weight on the right leg. I'm wondering if it isn't... There's one buffalo just swam across the dam. Let's turn around. We have the sun behind us. There's a few things happening, and I'll get to the next Aussie question. Was that Susie, Brian? Georgie, sorry Georgie. I should have remembered that since part of me is called Georgina. Georgie in Australia was asking to verify a fact that she's heard, whether or not lioness will suckle the sister's cubs. And that is true, Georgie. It is most certainly. It's called buffalo are having a little bit of a time there. It's a weaver bird still knocking this poor snake. Gives me a better opportunity to look at it again. I thought I might be able to see the tip of the tail and how it's caught, but I can't from this angle. I think as long as it's swinging, I think it's still alive, and or that as long as it's there, it is still truly a remarkable thing to witness. The mouth is open. So this is this group of buffalo that's this very young bull with them. No, or is that a young? That's a young cow, I think. I wonder if she maybe got split up from the herd when those lions were hunting. If anybody has maybe seen, those of you on the camera, this female buffalo that is here, I wonder, has she been around with these bulls before? Or is this a new addition? Hanging out with the old men. Maybe that's why there was a little bit of an altercation. Not really an altercation, but there was one bull that was being chased away. Looks like that bull has adopted this cow. And won't let any of the other bulls near her. There's a very, very tight-knit bond amongst the pride, lion pride, Georgie. Very similar to the bonds that you find in the matriarchal lineage within a herd of elephants, and they do take good care of. In fact, I've seen aunties behaving, or rather being nicer to the cubs than the cubs' own mothers on a number of occasions, only because the mothers get so irritable. Oh, those two bulls having an argument. They were just grumbling at each other. Two hippos sleeping. One on the left resting his head on the other one's back. Bill, or Beryl? Bill. Interesting question, Bill. About a weaver colony. The weavers within a colony of the same family. There's a lot of action going on here with the buffalo. A lot of posturing. And I think a lot of it's got to do with this cow that's here. Sorry, Jason, I know you. As soon as we go back to the weavers and the snake, the buffalo start doing things. As soon as we go back to the buffalo, they stop doing things. And then, getting back to the weavers, the question is, with a cuckoo flying into a tree with some prey, which means that there might be a nest up there. I think so. Keep an eye on it. Do the chicks fly off to a different tree? Well, firstly, I think the first part of the question is no. The weavers of a colony are not necessarily, in fact not likely to be related. If anything, they are all competing males. They are all dominant males who compete for females. And one of the things about the colony is trying to be the best nest builder to attract the best female. And there goes that buffalo now. See, as soon as we look back this way, then, and he's swimming. He's coming back to this. The one that went across, I think, in the first place. Started panicking when he got out of his depth. I think because he thought he was going to get a hippo after him. But I think the hippos don't really care. I think that little female is going to follow him and be followed. I suppose why go round if you can just make a beeline straight for the other side. So she prefers the loner rather than... Oh, she's panicking a bit, getting out of her depth. Interesting. The chicks that are probably hatching now, they might go and practice building nests somewhere, or even come and try and never. But I'm not sure. I really am not sure whether they will return to the same colony. I'm guessing that maybe they might, if they're females. It would be a very interesting study if there was a way to mark chicks, because I don't know if I suppose tagging them would help. Putting rings on their feet might help to establish whether they are from that colony originally. But I'm interested. I would be interested to find whether they really do come back the next year and build in the same place. I don't think they'll be building anytime this summer. So back to the buffalo, just before we leave. Now a couple of bulls, looks like they were going to try and escort this cow across. Once again, getting a little bit deep. What are you going to do, boys? It's a saga that would be interesting to follow for whoever zoomed me today, with this one buffalo cow amongst the bulls. Okay, time for one to go. It's almost like our mini migration across the Mara River. Just takes one to start and others to follow. He's not out of his depth, he's walking all the way. She's following in the wake. Quite interesting. And I think this is the big boy hippo has just woken up. I'm not sure if he was moving towards them or if... No, I think still there, because this one still got its head on his back. Okay, off we go. We'll leave. Aloha to Rick and Susie. Nice to hear from you from Hawaii. Wondering if the snake got caught from the, on the cloaca. Probably not likely. The cloaca, which of course is the equivalent of the parts of animals that are joined into one. So that's the anus and the hemipenis, or the female parts. all-in-one, the bottom end of a snake, but it has a scale that fits over the cloaca. I guess there's a remote chance that a thorn could have been hooked on the cloaca. I was trying to see if I could find where it was hooked, but I unfortunately didn't manage to ascertain that. If there were no buffalo there, I'd probably be able to go and stand under the tree and get a much better idea, or walk closer. But as long as there's buffalo and hippo there, I can't do that. Or rather, I won't do that. And the second question from Hawaii was also, thanks Rick and Susie, about the Birchall's kukul. It's not a cuckoo, by the way, it's a kukal, C-O-U-C-A-L. The Birchall's kukul, wanting to know if the sound of the kukul is like water being poured out of a bottle. It is. It's also known as the water bottle bird. Something like that. And I haven't heard, I was saying this morning, I saw a kukul driving in this morning, I was just saying to the guys as we're driving in, I haven't heard the rainbird. It's also known as the rainbird because usually calls, well, it always calls in summer, in the wet season, but it's believed that it only calls when the rains are coming. Like the red-chested cuckoo. If you hear the red-chested cuckoo, you can be sure that within 24 hours you'll have some rain. Most of the time, not always, most of the time. And up to Hawaii to Canada, BC, British Columbia. Blair wants to know if a raptor would come and get the rock python. It would be pretty difficult. The one bird that is maybe possible, that may be likely to get it, would be the African harrier hawk, because it's quite agile. But even then, the way that snake is hanging, there's no real space for a harrier hawk to be able to get there and hold on and flap its wings because of all the thorn branches. Perhaps a small raptor, maybe one of the goshawks or a lizard buzzard. It's for one of the smaller raptors that are likely to be able to get there. It's a little bit, the snake's a little bit big for them to swallow. I mean, obviously they would then tear it up because that's what they do. But you have to remember one thing about that, is that we're talking about a weaver colony, and no bird in its right mind is, especially, well, a raptor at any rate, is not going to go and try and sit in the middle of a weaver colony, because it's going to, pardon? Elephant tracks, very fresh, heading up quarantine. Any raptor getting anywhere near that colony to try and get that snake is going to receive the same treatment. It's going to be mobbed by those weavers, and it can have its eyes pecked out. So it's not going to be easy for a raptor to get in there. I believe there was a woodlands kingfisher there trying to get to it, but a woodlands kingfisher has a major problem in that it doesn't have a tearing beak. A woodlands kingfisher has a grasping beak for catching insects and small reptiles. Very small reptiles, and it holds it with it, and it uses its beak to smell leopard too. No leopard tracks. The kingfisher beats its prey to death on a branch, and since the snake's already dead, the next step for a kingfisher is to swallow it whole. Sometimes if a very big grasshopper is too big, it'll eat pieces of it. It'll beat it and maybe eat the abdomen first, and then maybe the thorax. but there's no real way, there's no way for that kingfisher to actually get into that python. I have seen kingfishers pecking at things, and I suppose there's only one way to find out, and that's to wait and see. I think also what can happen in the next day or so, especially if it gets hot, and of course decay is going to take place, it will soften up and eventually it will fall down, and then the terrapins will get it. That's something to watch. If whoever's on Zoom at the time that it falls down, you're probably likely to see terrapins scrambling to pull it apart. I don't see any elephant. We're heading west. We're going to see where this big male, that big chocolate giraffe went to. Great to be getting lots of questions this morning. Keep them up. Keep them coming. Makes the drive interesting. Makes life interesting. Oh. Hey, Sarah in California, do we have any castor bean plants here? Yes and no, Sarah. We're talking about a plant known as ricinus, and the fruits of which, or rather not the fruits, but the plant itself isn't that poisonous. It's the crushed seed that creates the ricin powder that is so bad. And would the animals leave it alone? Animals do leave it alone. That's a noble duck that was flying overhead. It's an alien species. I think it's a South American species. I will check shortly. We're going to get into the books now. Nice to start diving into the book box, the library box. Why I bring it. Sometimes I drive around with the library box and I don't ever even open it. But I think I might have a picture of it in Anita Fabian's book. It mainly only grows in disturbed areas, very much like this red zinnia, very much like the datura, very much like the blackjack, or the, what else, I'm trying to think of other aggressive aliens, khaki bush, which is now, funny enough, being used quite extensive because of its value in insect repellents and maybe other things, the scent of it. There goes an oriole, and that looked like a golden oriole. I didn't see a red black head on it. That's often the only way you see an oriole like that, because they fly away so quickly. Castor bean, the castor oil, castor. Castor oil is made from that plant, and that's not toxic. Is it not? Right, Anita, where are you? Let's bring Anita out. Anita Fabian, F-A-B-I-A-N, makes a lovely flower book, mostly because it's her own illustrations, and they really are beautiful illustrations. So let's go to ricinus, and we will find it. Will we find it? Rus. No, we won't. Not in that book, we won't. I don't have my alien plant species book. Maybe the big flower book, because this has got a lot of aliens in it. Illegal aliens, aggressive invading aliens. Not in here either. Unless they change the name, they do that to me all the time. No. One more book. Of my 4 flower books, I must get some more one day. But this will have to do for now. And definitely not in that little book. So, unfortunately I can't show you the plant. Not too prevalent here in the Sabi sand, more up on the high veld. Now here's this tree again, with some interesting beetles on the flowers. There's one on Zoe's Road I thought was the only one. And let's see, can you see these beetles? Maybe that one there. This tree is covered in these beetles. I still can't remember what this tree is. Somebody did tell me. It's the same as that one at camp that we drive past, isn't it? That big one, I think it is. Except here it's facing up and there those branches are hanging down. Like that.
Only it's fluffy.
No. I guess there's only one solution here. Take a photo. I need to start taking layers off. But it's starting to fade now. These flowers are starting to go brown. Oh my word, there is an incredible beetle in the back here. I've got to find this for you. A giant longhorn beetle that, wow. Oh, it's flown away. No, it's here. Can you see that magic? It's eating the flowers.
Brandy in Kansas wants to know what the most rare insect is that you've seen in real life. I think it's insect or animal. That's Brandy in Kansas.
Just so you can see the... Oh, you got a good shot of it?
Yeah. Did you get that question?
Yeah. Leave the kingfisher. Rollers are chasing a kingfisher, probably because they're fighting over nest. That beetle is one of the longhorn beetles, and the longhorn beetles are some of the longest living beetles that we get here. That beetle is probably as old as some of you teenagers if you're watching, because they live in wood as larvae, burrowing in wood for anywhere between 15 and 20 years as larvae. They'll come out and live for one season. That's one really recently hatched male, or rather pupated male, feeding on flowers. They don't have that much of a digestive system as adults. Their main purpose is to mate, so it's probably getting some nectar or just getting some nutrition from the pollen, enough to keep it going to mate. And these other beetles with the orange and black wings are known as net-winged beetles. They're really amazing things, because the big wing that we see is not really their flying wing. It's the stabilizer wing. It's what protects the flying wing, and they lift that up, and then the flying wings fold out. And most of these beetles are females. I must see if I can find a male for you, because the male has very large paddle-shaped edges to the upper wings. The upper wing of a beetle is known as the elytra, the hard wings. It looks like it. You see that one?
Yeah.
A couple of different species of net-winged beetles, but this is one of the males of this species. Much broader wings to the most of the females. Anyways, my flowers for the day, ladies. Well, one of them. I've got to try and... I must look through my book, my tree book. Now that I'm seeing... There was one of these trees on a termite mound on Zoe's Road, and haven't really ever seen any others around, and now suddenly, because they're in flower, I'm starting to notice there are a few of them. Sorry, was it Brandy that was asking that question?
Yeah.
Wanting to know what's the rarest insect or animal?
I think it's both insect or animal.
Insect or animal? Probably the Zanj elephant shrew is one of them. Or a Senji. Zanj Senji. It's a... Come on. I think if this ever happens again, we must try and get Bluetooth earpieces. Especially if you've got long hair that gets caught in the clip. I must tie my hair up, I think. Sorry folks, I'm just trying to get my earpiece ready. It's not playing ball with me this morning. Okay, off we go. The Zanj elephant shrew. See, what good is it telling you about some of the things I've seen and you don't know what it is? So let's have a look quickly. The elephant shrews are incredible. Well, the very small ones, they're the smallest insectivores. Okay, I forgot there's an index here. Here we go. Elephant shrews. Senjis, they're also known as Senjis. As you can see, just to show you, the elephant shrew is so called because it has a very prehensile snout. And here's the Zanj elephant shrew, an incredible elephant shrew that I found on Mafia Island. It's an archipelago of islands off of the East African coast of Tanzania, sort of more or less where the Rufiji Delta is, quite far south of Zanzibar. I've seen the checkered elephant shrew, and in Salou we used to have the giant elephant shrews. Well, that is the giant elephant shrew, I'm sure. It's just a different book. Because lesser elephant shrews, and that's it for the elephant shrews. Not very common. One of the rarest insects I've ever seen, and I don't have a picture of it because it's not, well, maybe I do. It's called the Saturn moth. It's a diurnal moth that is more beautiful and has more colors and is more astounding than any butterfly I've seen. And it's debatable because there's some Caraxines and swallowtails, but yeah, the Saturn moth, I suppose, would be one of the rarest insects I've seen, apart from some of the jewel beetles. Now, if you think the longhorn beetles are long living at 17 to 20 years, some of the jewel beetles live for well into their 30, maybe 40 years, 4 decades or more, as larvae in wood before they emerge as adults. And they're getting rarer and rarer by the day, with all the dead wood being burnt up for firewood. Rural Africa, because firewood becomes the only thing to keep warm in winter and to cook every night. Vast areas of Africa with burgeoning populations that don't have electricity, where solar is still far too expensive, although there are some things being developed. I mean, there's a solar cooker that doesn't use the solar panels, just reflectors that reflect on a pot, and it is able to produce enough heat to make a slow cooker, I guess. A lot of these trees that the elephants are ring barking have already got larvae in them, the larvae of longhorn and jewel beetles, that as long as the tree stands up and it doesn't, as long as it's not rot, well, if it's rotting on the ground just as well, but if it's not being collected, these marulas and knobthorns, not being collected for firewood. Marula doesn't tend to make very good firewood. It's not a very dense wood, so it does decompose rather quickly, especially with the likes of larvae of beetles that have been in that wood for almost the entire life of the marula tree. Remarkable things happen out here. They're things that take so much time that we can't even grasp the concept of it, because if you think about it, a generation of longhorn beetles that takes so long to come out and then mate, and then by the time it's another 17-20 years before the next generation emerges. Thank you, excuse me. Now, this is not like the cicada eruption in North America, where, as far as I know, every 17 years you have the sort of mass eruption. Here it's every year you'll get a generation, or you'll get some of them pupating and emerging, but their numbers are dropping rapidly. I don't think there are enough entomologists around to actually put any credence to this, but I know for a fact, because I am so mad about them, all the little remarkable creatures. And one of the best ways to gauge the population of insects is to see what it's attracted to lights at night. And wherever there are lodges or wherever humans are and there is electricity, there is invariably a light left on somewhere at night. And the insects that collect are a good indicator of what's flying around, what's moving around. And nowadays, obviously, the one insect that is prolific, and that is, as long as there are animals around, the insect is going to be around, and that is the dung beetle. And all the different species of dung beetles, they're always scarabs of every shape and size and form around lights in the morning. But it's getting harder and harder to find jewel beetles. In fact, they, as their name implies, they're becoming like jewels. They already are. They're called jewel beetles because of their wonderful colors. And Scott showed you a pair of emerald jewels the other day that were mating. I can hear this woodpecker, but let's just stop so we can listen to this quickly. I can't see it. what we're hearing is the territorial rap of a woodpecker. That's not a woodpecker pecking at wood to find an insect. It found himself a hollow piece of wood, probably in that, maybe that terminal at the back there, or is it in that marula? I think it's that marula, and it's probably on a gall on the marula. Yeah, I can see it in that marula. It's sort of, let me go forward for you. You see it now? Follow that right fork. And where that right fork then forks.
Oh, there.
We're just going to be able to see it from a distance. Just testing another. This is testing another hollow. Back to the and off he goes. Now, if my brain can try and recall which one that is, because each woodpecker species has a different Morse code. Woodpecker code, rather. Okay, questions. Get so sidetracked. I talk about things and then I hear a woodpecker and it throws me off. But I think I pretty much made my point about insects and beetles and how scarce they're becoming. Really beautiful beetles. Somebody find a satin moth and maybe post it somewhere. But I found that in East Africa. And I'm not sure if we get them in South Africa. Somewhere in one of my books, I'm not too sure which. Might even be here in my butterfly book. I'm going to have a look shortly. First I'm going to just see if it's in my insect book. I doubt it because this is Southern African insect and we don't get the satin moth here. Sorry, we're going to stop again and listen. Let me just go to the... No, I've been through this book. I know if I would have seen that satin moth in this book. However, there's a strong possibility that that must be my other butterfly book. This was Dave Hill's butterfly book that was given to WildEarth, by the way, by Dave Hill. Well, it's Dave Hill's book that we're using. He'll get it when he comes to Kruger. There's another one of those things coming into town. Oh, Genevieve, that's what it was. One insect. Do we have fireflies, Genevieve? Yes, we do. And just also, fireflies are actually beetles, by the way. Oh, big bank of cloud coming in. I've got to take layers off and to get to this lovely open area up here on Rebecca's Road and have a glimpse at the morning. The morning light over the bushveld, looking east, southeast, and then I'm going to have to take this t-shirt and layers off. We do have fireflies. The male firefly is a flying beetle. The female firefly is an unwinged. Well, no, that's not the word. A no wing. She lacks wings. There we go. She lacks wings, so she is almost as though she's still half in the larval stage, and she's known as a glowworm because, well, a lot of beetle larvae are called worms, and they're not really worms, they're grubs. But she doesn't really develop much more than that sort of grub stage. She doesn't develop wings, and she sits on the edge of small ponds and wetland areas, and has a constant glow about her. She glows. And the male is a winged beetle, and he flies around flashing. So when you see a fixed glow, it's the female. When you see flashing, it's the male. And it's even more amazing when you see the two of them together. Amazing. 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 Sorry, I want to catch up. Something was being said about... Bonnie in Pennsylvania, do we get Japanese beetle here? Oh, Bonnie, I don't know what a Japanese beetle is. But if it's a beetle from Japan, I don't think we get it here. Or is it a Japanese beetle because it's white and it's got a red dot on it? I've never known of a beetle called a Japanese beetle. Okay, I'm just taking my earpiece out and I'm talking while I'm just getting a few layers off. Teddy, hello Teddy in Massachusetts. Wanting to know what other fruit trees we get besides the marula tree. A lot of them, Teddy. We got a lot of berries, berry trees, berries and fruits. To start, let's see, there's a false marula, which is not really anything like the marula. They're more like small little berries, drupes. We have all the raisin, called raisin bush or brandy bush. They're fruits. There are different species of those. There's milkberry. There is, well, I haven't seen mangosteen here. There are guaris, all the different species of guari. They get berries. There's the nyala berry, the kudu berry, the kubu berry, the okna, I'll try and think of more. The raisin bush, not raisin, but there's raisin bush and resin bush.
Sour plum.
The what?
Sour plum.
Oh, the sour plum, the large sour plum and the small sour plum. Jason's favourite. Do we still have any in the fridge?
No.
You finished them all?
All gone.
You've got to wait the whole year now for your next sour plum. You realise that?
I do. It's tragic, actually.
Yeah, soon we're going to have to wait the whole year for the marulas. And I actually haven't even had a marula yet. And they're lying thick on the ground. As we drive, oh, even the buffalo thorn has a berry, a fruit that we can eat. I'll think of others as we move along. There's some fruits, of course, we can't. There's some, like the poison apple. And then who's going to eat something called a poison apple? Not called a poison apple because it's tasty. It's also known as deadly nightshade. I'll show you the flower. Well, I'll show you the fruit even. There are all the different cucumber species of plants, the fruits of which some are palatable, some are edible, not so palatable, some are not edible at all, but maybe poisonous too. Many different species of cucumbers, most of which are climbers, creepers. Thanks for the info from Pennsylvania, BJ. Great to hear from you, and thanks for the info on the Japanese beetle, evidently an invasive species of beetle in the US that pretty much eats everything in its path, and obviously attacking fruit trees and a pest. Whereas in Japan, where they come from, obviously it has its own predators. Now this is where the danger comes in, because we have a species of cactus, and you bring in a species of insect to deal with the cactus, and then what happens when that species of insect becomes prolific and it starts looking at maybe our aloe species or something else. So it's very important when you're using biological pest control to have something that is so species specific that there's no chance of it then turning to another indigenous species to devour, and then you're just replacing one problem with another. I will look up Japanese beetle when I get back, and I will let you know. It's very much like the harlequin ladybug beetle. A species of ladybug that devours other insects, and local populations of ladybugs, instead of what ladybirds are supposed to do, which is devour aphids. And so in an agricultural sense, where you have ladybirds helping out by eating aphids on flowers like roses, you suddenly have a harlequin that's coming in to eat those ladybirds. So it's always a difficult thing to juggle. I'm doing big circles because I'm looking for a giraffe track, that big male giraffe, and I hope we can find some sign of him, and also in the process find something else walking around, eventually going back to the lion later. Marco, New Jersey, reminding me something. Marco wants to know if we get any of the variations of rhino beetles. A number of different species, Marco. In fact, one of the species of beetle that has been rather prolific this year has been, as I said, the scarabs. Rhino beetles are scarabs, and I've found quite a few that I must bring on drive that have obviously subsequently died, and I need to find them, and guys are having coffee. We won't disturb them. I was going to go on to Gowrie, Maine, but we'll just have to go along this way. Sorry to disturb. but they're very interesting variations, and some of them have trident horns, some of them have single horns, some of them have thorns coming, trident type of horns coming out of the thorax with an opposing double horn, and they're very, very interesting insects. Some of them very large, like dung beetles. Well, they are dung beetles. Rhino beetles are dung beetles. And I'll be able to show you a couple. I might even be able to find one or two for this afternoon's drive, because they are dying off. They don't last very long as beetles. Their main function is to just mate and then produce eggs, because the larvae are the things that then devour the dung more than the adults. And so it's imperative that they produce as much larvae as possible within a short amount of time after, or rather eggs, within a short amount of time of emerging as adults. Interesting, Roger, in Wisconsin. Oh, an eagle just flew out of a tree, and that might be our fourth eagle of the day, landing now in that marula tree. And I'm wondering if this is the lesser spotted that I've seen at Treehouse Dam. Stop here in the shade. Before it flies again, we can get a view of it. Did you see where it landed?
Just to take a look.
Oh, just and I'm looking for my binoculars, which are not where they're supposed to be. That's my own fault. Okay, maybe we can catch up with it again. I saw a white patch on the shoulder. A little bit of white. I don't know if it was the shoulder, but I saw a bit of a patch. A little bit of a tail. It's the booted that has that patch of white on the shoulder. I still think it might have been a lesser spotted. Hard to tell, it was into the morning light. Roger was asking if I've heard of crushed up termites being used as an insect repellent. First I've ever heard of it, Roger, that you mentioned it. I've never heard that before. I'm a little reluctant to crush up termites. There are a bunch of plants that you can use. But my best repellent, my method of keeping or mosquitoes away, that's all I really care about, are mosquitoes at home. When I'm, even during the day sitting outside, we get mosquitoes sometimes. And I just burn old elephant dung. Just let it smolder like incense. And all of those tannins in all the different plants that have now dried out make a really wonderful smell. In fact, it's far more pleasant than the commercial mosquito coils that you can burn, which tend to choke me because it's poison. But I've never heard of the crushed up termite theory. The other thing you can do is, well, what I've also done when I've been out on overnight walking trails, is find just a little piece of tamboti wood. Now tamboti, the tree tamboti has milky latex, or white milky latex, that is very poisonous to us humans. And giraffe and kudu and things eat the leaves. But for us, if we were just to get the milk on our hands by touching a leaf and then using or eating with our hands, we will get a severe case of diarrhea. It'll affect the stomach immediately. It is really, really quick. And I wonder, how are we going to do this? Go this way first, but I want to go to the dam first, but I want to go this way first. We'll go this way first. Smouldering, getting a little piece of tamboti burning and then smoking. Blow the flame out and let it smolder. It has a lovely, almost, it's not quite lavender, but it's a lovely smell, it's a lovely scent, it's not very unpleasant. And although the smoke can be dangerous, or it can affect us, one doesn't cook on a fire using tamboti wood because of the oils in the smoke that will render the meat poisonous. One doesn't have to breathe it in large numbers, and you're not burning it in an enclosed space. All I do is I put a little piece of it smouldering upwind of the chairs at the fire or the chairs outside, and the smoke wafts through our feet. They don't necessarily breathe it in, but at least it keeps the mosquitoes away from the place where they bite the most, which is around the ankles. And where you can't see them. Since I'm shirtless most of my life, it's my sides and my belly and the inside of the arms. And if you look at a mosquito, it doesn't bite you, but if you're not looking at it, you'll find a place where you can't see it. To Washington State. Hello, Tom in Seattle. What plants are used for medicinal purposes? Tom, every single plant here has a medicinal use. Unfortunately, I'm still learning. I mean, it's something that, of course, the Shangaan people, they've passed on generation after generation with it, since they were all the one formed the tribe, the hunter-gatherers, and there were no doubt medicine women who knew everything. And they still are today. But almost everything has some use, has some benefit to us. The buffalo thorn we just passed now, the leaves can be chewed for a cough, almost as a cough remedy. The silver cluster leaf, some of the fresh leaves, because of the high tannin content, can help with as an antacid for heartburn. The inner bark of the marula tree is great as using as a poultice for hairy caterpillar stings. Not that it's an antihistamine, maybe there are antihistamine qualities to it, but the hairy caterpillar, it's the hairs that irritate your paws, because the hairs are so fine that it gives you kind of a rash. And one of the only relief is that, using the inner bark, the purple bark of a marula tree, or it's reddish really, wet and red. Leaves a purplish stain. There are things that are used as emetics, there are things that are used for malaria, there are things that are used for snake bite. Of course, I would imagine that a fair amount of things, psychosomatic, a fair amount of things are, if there's a medicine person administering something, just the mere belief that it will work goes a long way in making it work. I have a booklet, a thick booklet of the medicinal uses, unfortunately it's not here, of almost everything here going right up the escarpment to Maritzburg. And it's a lot to learn. It's a lot to learn. It's a lot to forget as well. There's a lot that I've forgotten over the years. But sometimes things will come to me when I see them. Back to Gari Main in a little while. We're going to go and investigate Treehouse Dam quickly. Elephant tracks heading more or less in here along the edge of the road, and then good morning, Gwendolyn. Actually, it might be good evening still, but Gwendolyn in SoCal, Southern California. I wonder where you are, Gwendolyn, in Southern California. Wanting to know if our monarch butterflies migrate the way they do in North America, from Mexico or from South America, coming into North America. Not here, they don't. No. Nowhere in Africa. Our African monarchs are here all year round. I think the large reason for that, Gwendolyn, is that we don't get the cold temperatures that require a migration. Don't know what the other reasons may be. Perhaps a lot of it is that the host plant, the larval host plant of the monarch is here all year round. And mostly the milkweeds. What is the milkweed again? Asclepias is the genus of the milkweed, and all the Asclepias used to be, I think Gomphocarpus was also milkweed, but it's now all Asclepias. And the milkweed, I find milkweed, there are many different species. But for whatever reason it is that they migrate in North America, we don't have the same conditions here that require them to collect and migrate here in Africa. So I will be on the lookout now for a monarch. There's a bird on the road that's just flying that is the same colouring as a monarch. It's our African hoopoo. That lovely orangey red russet colour with the black and white. Back in the road. The African hoopoo. The monarch of the bird world. Oh, just a little too close. We'll land again around the corner. Still haven't seen a single track of this big giraffe bull that came past the lion yesterday. I wonder where he is. Or where he went. Southern California to Tennessee, home to Jack Daniels. Brenda wants to know how often we see ostrich. I'd say every 5 years, or once every 5 years or so. I think there's not really a frequency to it. We did have a couple of ostrich that came past Juma. The one day we had them up on Cheetah Cutline. I remember finding the tracks. Tara was lucky enough to see them, I think. I think I only saw the tracks. There's that hoopoo now in a tree. Finally given up landing on the road and it's landed in a tree. guess there'd be more chance of seeing ostrich up on Arathusa airstrip, since that's more or less their habitat. Here at Djuma, there isn't really open ground for ostrich. And in Kruger there are vast tracts of open, almost grassland, where ostrich are likely to occur in greater numbers, but we just don't have the habitat for them here. It's far too thick. I mean, they'd be endangered here. Lion. Well, still down there on the Gulf, Louisiana. Hello, Brenda. You move quickly. Tennessee to Louisiana. You teleport yourself. Just another Brenda. And wondering if we have malaria here in South Africa. We do, Brenda. We do. We have all the different strains you can think of. There are obviously malaria-free areas. Dwarf monkeys poking their heads out. Turn the vehicle a little bit. Morning, children. Especially here, this whole the whole Kruger area is a malaria area. So if you do ever come to the low veld, you do have to bring malaria tablets, prophylaxis. And there have been quite a few deaths, there have been quite a few deaths from cerebral malaria this year, and it is quite a problem. Most of us carry malaria test kits. I keep one with me all the time. I had a bit of a scare maybe about a month before I came here, where the test kit proved positive, but I had a bronchial infection at the time, so it was masking things. Anyway, went straight onto a thing called coartem, which is, I suppose in a way it is a prophylaxis, it is a anti-malaria drug. But of course those of us that live here, which I'm sure the next question will be, what did we do for those of us who live here? Well, living within a malaria area, you can't take tablets forever, and there's a limited time to how long you can. Plus, the tablets themselves are one of the best treatments for malaria. So not being on the drug, of course, you can immediately go on the drug and it kills off the parasite, or it helps. My friend Diane, who owns Bush Pub and Inn, is still getting over her malaria. She had malaria probably at least a month ago or more, and she's still suffering, still just coming around from it. I don't mean coming around conscious, but getting her strength back. It can be it can be sapping. It takes all your energy away. You're going to lose a lot of weight. Dwarf mongoose. Our smallest mongoose species. What have you seen this morning, children? I suppose if we don't move, you won't see us. Is that it? But we're looking at you. Hello. It would be funny if they waved back. Okay. I'm going to do a big figure 8. Come back here and then go up to the little cut line again and around again. How we can do this, that's going to get us. I don't know, we'll figure it out. Been an elephant here. we missed it. I want to see how recent there's some Morning, Joe. Wanting to know if mongoose are related to ferrets. Not really. I mean, maybe in that they're small carnivorous, or they're small carnivorous weasel type creatures. But mongoose belong to the family. They're different families. If you understand taxonomy and how animals are all broken down into orders and family and genus and species, they belong to different families. The mongoose belong to the family of viverids, the Viveridae, whereas your ferrets and weasels, they belong to the Mustelidae, the mustelids. So these are viverids and ferrets are mustelids. No snakes hanging in this weaver nest tree. Okay, so let's try this angle. What do you see? Yeah, sound. Morning, little Franklin. Now that elephant dung wasn't very fresh. Must have been here either early this morning or during the night, because it's cold. I did the finger temperature test. Cloud coming in, which is cooling things down nicely. Oh, back to Rick and Susie. Aloha. Rick and Susie back in Hawaii. I think I'd like to visit Hawaii one day. Catch a wave. Well, I haven't surfed since my Baja days in California. Shark Bowl and Capitola, Aptos, Santa Cruz. Are honeybees in Africa kept as honeybees? African bees kept as honeybees? Yes, they are. I have even kept bees a few years back. When was it? Must be about 9 years back. I had bees, I made honey. I would love to do it again, actually. The honeybees here in Africa, although they have a reputation in North America, Central America, more elephant, looks like the same alley. I wonder where he went. The honeybees, the so-called killer bees in North America, Central America, are hybridized African, or they're actually Africanized bees, but they are hybridized. They're a crossbreed, and they've probably taken the most aggressive feature of the African bee, and that's what's come out in this North American honeybee that has now become so aggressive. I've worked with the Cape honeybee more than the African bees here, and I've also had experience with the bees up in East Africa, because we introduced honey farming to local communities as an alternative form of income, to try and alleviate the pressure on the marine resources in that archipelago, the Mafia archipelago. The bees that I kept in the Cape were very, very calm. I could have probably collected honey without even using a suit, merely using a bit of smoke to calm them down. Because they hardly ever got aggressive. I've had encounters with bees here in the Kruger, in Sabi Sand, and at home, where they've also not been aggressive, where we get swarms that fly over, and you can stand and actually watch the swarm. They're not going to do anything. They sort of, from point A to point B, they're not really bothered with anything on the ground when they are traveling in the swarm. And I've known a couple of beehives in places, friends' houses here in the reserves, where I personally haven't been stung. I've had them hitting, because bees actually, before they sting, they get aggressive and they dive bomb you and actually hit you. And I've had them, it's almost like it sounds like it's raining on my hat, and I think they're content that the hat is part of my body. But I've had people standing with me, or people in close proximity to the same hive, who have been stung, sometimes even multiple times, but that is because of the way they react to the bees getting close to them. When you get bees coming close to you, the worst thing you can do is wave your arms and swat at them. I'll gladly show you how bees will calmly walk over my arm or any part of me, and I'll be quite happy with it. It's only when they're seriously stressed that they'll sting. But remember, when a bee stings, it's giving up its life for its colony. And the other thing is that when a bee does sting, it gives off the danger pheromone that of course excites all the other bees, and the other bees are just going to sting exactly the same threat, which will be you, even though you're not be threatening them. I've had bees that have been riled up merely by I suppose the carbon monoxide of the vehicles, because they do react to carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. In East Africa, where we've had to drive away at speed because we've disturbed a hive in a big baobab, and from then on we avoided it until one day when a vehicle got stuck and we had to get the tractor to pull it out, and a few people got stung, and that was a good 20-30 feet away from the tree that the tractor was trying its hardest to get this vehicle unstuck from the mud. Yeah, I'm changing tactic a little bit. It's going to go down to Twin Dams and then come back up here and maybe spend the last bit of time with these cats. Seen any sign of that big giraffe. I don't know where he went. Maybe because we just haven't been to a road where he might have crossed the road. So bees are kept here. In fact, it is becoming very big business because of the collapse of so many bee colonies around the world. I mean, I had an entire hive that died for some unknown reason. I don't know what it was that caused it. And it was right next to the hive it was another hive that there was nothing wrong with. And those were in proper bee boxes, those were proper supers and things. also honey is becoming exceptionally expensive. I'm a honey addict. I haven't used sugar in probably 12 or more years. And while I don't have many things that require sweetening up, I do have a bit of a sweet tooth. So my tea in the morning needs honey and my cereal needs honey. And every now and then I just need a spoonful of honey. Great antibiotic. It's probably the best natural antibiotic. But, and I'm going to pause here because we're probably going to get iffy signal down here. Get back to the honey story and scorpion. How's the signal looking? Oh, good. Okay. Brian just reminding me that Einstein, and I think there were a couple of other people that said that 4 years after all the bees are gone, we will be gone too. Because we will not survive without bees. In fact, already, I think in China, they are hand pollinating certain fruit trees because the bees aren't there anymore. Hello, boys. And white-faced ducks too. Don't get up on my account, really. No need to stand, gentlemen. I'll bow down to your superiority. And size and strength and horns and temperament. Now the only thing one needs to know about honey is that unfortunately honey gets ultra filtered, and when it gets ultra filtered, all the purity, all the goodness, all that stuff that makes it so good is African monarch just flew by. One behind us now. We'll find another one. For honey to be as effective an antibiotic and the medicine that it is, it needs to be pure. Here we get a lot of radiorized honey. I don't really know what radiorized means or what it does to the honey. But the important properties of honey, good honey, are having bits of wax and bits of pollen and everything that the bees have put into the honey. By filtering it out and just getting a generic honey brand that maybe comes from China or elsewhere, mass-produced, filtered, probably watered down. Not great properties in that honey. And I believe eucalyptus honey is also very high in sugar. Of course, here in South Africa, a lot of beekeepers keep their hives around eucalyptus because they are such prolific flowering trees, and they do produce a lot of honey. Did you see the white-faced ducks?
Where they?
Here on the edge. A dozen buffalo. On we go. I think Rick and Susie were also asking, along with the bee question, was whether we get scorpions here. And we do. We see them every night driving home. They're the most common species that we've been seeing at the moment have been the yellow-legged burrowing scorpion, which is also known as Opistophthalmus. A very large scorpion, quite harmless, very mild sting. Very big pinchers, very narrow tail. Then there are also a couple of species of Europlectids which are kind of in between the Scorpionidae and the Parabutidae, the two extremes of scorpions. The mild scorpions, the scorpions you don't have to worry about, are the family of Scorpionidae, which have the thick pinches and a thin tail, and it tells you that the tail isn't very strong, so the tail can't really do much damage, but it has big crab-like pinches, and it tells you that all the strength for the scorpion is in those claws to be able to capture its prey. The tail, being very thin, is also rather blunt, and it doesn't carry much venom. In fact, some of the rock scorpions and scorpions that have virtually, well, tail as thick as their legs, they don't even sting. Or well, for those that do, some of the burrowing scorpions, maybe not even as bad as a bee sting, maybe some of them a little bit more than a wasp sting. The Europlectids, as I say, in between the really bad ones and the mild ones, the Europlectids can be painful. I had one in my hat about a month ago, I think. Put my hat on and it zapped me on the forehead, and the effects of it lasted for quite a few days. It was quite painful, and it went numb and tingly, and it was almost as though I'd been to the dentist and he missed my mouth and he jabbed me in the forehead with Novocaine. It wasn't quite numb, but it was tingly, and it felt like it was swollen, and it was very sensitive to the touch. I could just wear my hat and couldn't even touch it. The one scorpion that I get at home that we don't get here is the big Parabutus, the big black Parabutus, the Transvaal big-tailed scorpion, which is a venom that it potentially can do damage, because people who might have a weak heart, or for children, it is excruciating. It's probably one of the most painful things one can ever feel. There's a brown snake wiggle in a tree in the same breath for eagle number 5 for this morning. Very clearly a brown snake eagle with a very broad head. And I can see its bare legs, and if we could, we'd see its yellow eye. With the sulphur-breasted bush shrike calling in the background. Yes, that's a marula tree here. Okay, from this bird to hummingbirds. Question from Michigan. Hello, Diane. Sorry, you weren't finished with the eagle. Uh-oh. We got a standoff here. That's our big boy. Oh, he's big. Gonna have a rub on the wattle branches to nice and soft, get them wrapped around his horn, and you can see that other one at the back there is wearing a wattle branch between his horn and his ear. So this one probably wants to get a bit of the same jewelry. Hummingbirds. Do we have hummingbirds? Diane? No. We do not. We have sunbirds, very similar to hummingbirds. But our sunbirds don't hover. But they do have very long decurved beaks, very long thin beaks that they probe into flowers for the nectar, and a very long tongue that they use to suck it up. But strangely enough, our sunbirds are not really related to the hummingbirds. You didn't quite manage to get that branch off, did you there, Mr. Buff? Try this wattle, the teak in front of me. Maybe he's going to try with this round leaf teak. Good morning, Squire. Oh, he's a big old man. Heading to Twin Dams. Go away, flies. I need a piece of gory again. Being with buffalo means we get these little flies that live on them. Need to find a fly switch. No, you carry on, Brian. Chris in Adelaide, before I get to one more thing about the scorpions for Hawaii. The large tick-tail scorpion that I was talking about, that is excruciatingly painful. As with all the tick-tails, you can also get a very small tick-tail scorpion, and don't also be fooled by a baby scorpion, because they also have venom and they are just as powerful. But the characteristic, or the thing that you're going to find with those kind of scorpions, is that their pinchers are very, very narrow. The pinchers are almost as thick as the legs, or as thin as the legs rather, and yet the tail is thick, almost as thick as the body. And it's those kind of scorpions that you've got to really be careful of. But the other thing is that some of the parabuted scorpions are able to flick their venom. It's almost like a spitting cobra, and they're very accurate. They can flick it quite far with their tail. Some Nyala bulls here that are displaying against with each other. They've got their dorsal crests raised. There's 3 of them, as far as I can see. And although they're not sparring, or they're not getting into sparring, I want to see if they're going to be posturing. He's disappearing. He was the one that was most visible. Jacobin cuckoo in the background. Because they're displaying, they're probably not likely to be moving much. They are feeding, but they're keeping their distance. Okay, let's move on. I've also got a flower next to me. I'm very keen to show you. I've got to look it up because I can't remember what it is. This one here, that I thought once was an orchid. I found these at home for the first time a few years ago. I had a friend, Ryan, who's now at Ulusaba. Ryan used to be a head ranger at Arathusa. Ryan was visiting me after rains one year, and we were walking around and we found this flower, and I thought it was an orchid. And I did find it, and I did learn the name, but I've forgotten because I haven't seen it for a couple of years, so I've got to remind myself. I mean, it's a green flower. It's not really that pretty, but it really is an intriguing shape. Kind of a long spike coming out of, I guess, from a bulb, or must be a bulb in the ground. Chris in Adelaide wants to know the translation of a couple of words. Coming on safari in August, is it, Chris? Wanting to know the word for tracks and a kill. Well, when we refer to tracks, we refer to mkonzo, M-K-H-O-N-Z-Z-O, mkonzo. Mkonzo. And then kill, although it's probably a slang word and it's a misuse of the word, but we use the word bamba because bamba is to catch. So we talk about lion on a buffalo bamba. To kill is to bulala, but we don't ever use the word bulala. Well, that's actually Zulu. On the radio we mostly use the word bamba, or we even just say nyama. They've got some nyama which means meat. What other words do we use? Mostly just use the word bamba. Marco wondering if it's a type of snapdragon. I don't think so, Marco. I'd like to look further into that. We don't get snapdragons here. I know of a snapdragon, but I'd have to find out if they are related in any way. Let me listen to the radio a second. Oh, they're back at the location. There's a mangy looking squirrel. Oh, it's gone. The squirrel's lost all the hair on its tail. It looks like a rat. Scrawny little squirrel. Grow some hair on the tail, why don't you? I'm going to do the other part of this big figure eight that we're doing up the other side of Treehouse Dam, back over the wall, up to Philemon's Cut Line, and then we're going to spend the rest with the lion. There's been elephants here, but they are long gone. confirm the hoofed animals. Okay. Then yeah, the hoofed animals get foot rot or hoof rot. No, Sarah in California, I'm pretty sure they don't. I think there might be places where it can get too wet for them, but they would soon adapt to it. I know there was a time when I think it was cheetah, it was at the Okavango or something, where cheetah developed almost waterproof pads, not pads, but the hairs on between their toes modified to be able to adapt to the much wetter conditions than they were used to. Over time it improved. But no, I guess, Sarah, it depends where we're talking about. You know, there are different areas. Up in East Africa, there are huge marshland areas, but the animals tend to stay away from them because of the type of grasses and plants that grow in those wetland areas. It's not really their habitat, their food. They might have to cross, and I suppose there might be times when the ground can be damp for a while. And possibly, you know, one of the things about living here in the wild is that one doesn't get close to animals that you can see their feet, or where you're able to monitor things like ailments and diseases and things like that. I guess I'd have to look it up to see whether it does occur, whether the animals do get it. I don't think so, though. Really don't think so, but I'm not sure. Yeah, there are bearers of hoof and mouth disease, type of foot and mouth, but it doesn't affect them, they merely carry it. But I don't know if that has anything to do with hoof rot. Big as he is, the giraffe's not easy to find, nor on his tracks. Sorry, Dove. Ah, okay. That makes a different story then altogether. PJ, Pennsylvania, hi there. I've often been asked when's the best time to come to Africa, and well, that's a very difficult question because any time is a good time. But PJ is asking me a much more important question. When's the best time for the lowest pollen count? Thanks for the question, BJ. It's a Bateleur, juvenile Bateleur. This is a BJ, Bateleur juvenile, or JB. We're going to pop in to see the lions quickly. The lowest pollen count being the key to this question. When's the best time to come on safari in South Africa? I would say probably the middle of winter or the middle of the dry season, but then you've got a lot of dust. Perhaps the end of summer when it's the greenest and everything is finished flowering and finished fruiting, and they really are. But then you're going to have the grass seeds and the grass pollen. Like now, they're starting to mature and ripen now. Gosh, that's a difficult question, since I don't really monitor pollen count, and I know that nowadays on your weather reports, they now give the pollen count, or they give warnings if there's a high pollen count. And lovely smell of decaying buffalo. Oh, you hear, boys, since it isn't so hot anymore. Am I in the wrong? No, they were here. Maybe they're back here to kill it. They're in the water. Oh, there. One of them coming up now. Sorry, Mr. Lion. I see the other one down there too. He's always been a bit shy, this boy. I don't know if we'll try and get a little bit further down. I think the other one might stay there if we just edge a little bit further down. Try not to make fast movements, please. Just giving us a little bit of a sly grin there. Got like a little bit of a twitch. He's up the lift. Hot and no doubt quite uncomfortable with such full bellies. The kill is another 20 or 30 feet beyond the other lion, who's now quite well hidden. He is a little bit shyer. He got up when we were starting to come down here, and he's gone and lay down in some thicker bush. I don't think anybody was looking for Kunuma this morning. I certainly didn't see any tracks coming out of this block. I didn't see any tracks on any of the roads, but there might have been a couple I didn't cover. Or it could have been that he crossed the road somewhere where there was hard packed soil and I missed it. But he might still be there, for all we know. You can see the way he's sitting, he can't be comfortable. His front paw's a little bit splayed. The way he's lying and panting too. Enduring the flies that are buzzing around him. But as far as I know, these are the two Matimba lions, Matimba males. I guess we could say they are occupying the territory that is, or they have the territory that is occupied by the Nkuhumas at the moment. You have seen them with the Nkuhumas. Which is from about here. This is about their southern limit, going up into Buffelshoek to the north. I think this is pretty much as far south as they come. With the Birmingham boys to the east. Rather sorry, to the southwest. What am I saying? Those vultures fighting or eagles? Somewhere in the tree behind us, I can hear some squabbling. That sounds like more like a vulture than an eagle. And they must have killed this buffalo just over 24 hours ago, and it is pretty much all done. Wasn't very much left, which means that they're going to most likely be moving on from here after today. I think if it is cool, the temperatures are cool like this, there's a good chance that they might even move a little bit further today, later today, with this overcast weather. But at the moment I'd say that the bellies are too full and it's a little bit warm for them to even contemplate it now. coming back again. Good. Means that he's almost accepting us being here now. This big boy, a little bit of a scar to the right of his right eye. But you're going to sit behind that tree so that we can't see you with the camera. Is that it, huh? Can't really go forward, otherwise we can be stuck here all day. But I can try and go back and get a better view of this other boy. Shall we do that? Shall we try that? Since we've got a... Let's see. Let's try that. On quite a gradient here. No. About the best we can do from this angle, I'm afraid. Maybe from there, and the grasses will cover in. Hello, big boy. He's a big lion. I don't think they're as big as the Salati boys, but they're pretty close.
That one's paw is very red.
Yeah, I see that. I wonder if that happened. I can just see a little bit of flesh there, pink flesh. Looks like he's got a little bit of an open sore wound. Almost where the dew claw is supposed to be. Can't quite see it from there, but because there's some grass in the way. He's got a patch of skin missing off of, just sort of above where the dew claw is on his right front leg. And I'm wondering if that wasn't an injury he sustained during this hunt. I haven't seen it before. Not to say that it hasn't been there before. But it'll heal. I'm sure he'll lick it a lot. And cats have, there is a bit of antibiotic in their saliva. Flat cats. Tired, full, contented cats. Welcome to Africa, our little patch of live Africa. And that posture now, trying to turn over onto his back. Let me go back a little bit. I don't know if you're going to see from there, but we certainly can't see anything here. Go. The small blue or purple flower by the lion is actually Commelina. It's a Commelina modesta. There's quite a bit of it growing around here. We should be able to find another one closer to us in a bit. As far as I know, it's also known as wandering Jew. He's winking at us. got a bit of a twitch. I'd love to be able to edge just a couple of inches forward, but I'm on the edge of no return. Any further forward and we are not getting out of here. Hello Billy Joe in Florida. I need to know why he would be twitching like that. What would cause the twitch? I don't know, maybe he's got Tourette's. I'm sorry, it's not a joke. Maybe flies are landing on his face. I can see there are flies on his nose. Maybe he's twitching like a horse twitches its flanks. Maybe he just has a little twitch. I have absolutely no idea. My guess is because there are flies landing on his face and he's too lazy to shake his head, so he's just twitching his cheek and he's getting rid of the flies that way. Good night, Mr. Lion and Mr. Lion, brothers, hermanos. Not a care in the world. I think the only thing that'll move them is a herd of elephant. Well, I was hoping while we were sitting here with the sleeping lion and Lovely peaceful morning. Yeah, I have to be honest, I've never felt safer than when I'm sitting, or when I've got lion or elephant around me, especially at home when I'm sleeping. But so I've been trying to dig into my book through the green flowers, not many, trying to find that little flower, but unfortunately I'll have to look a little bit harder in one of my other books. So it must be in one of my other books. That little skinny malinky flower that we saw now, that I said I thought was an orchid once upon a time. Thank you for joining us this morning. Thanks Jason on camera. Thanks Brian back in FC for sending through all the questions. But most importantly of all, thank you everyone for sending in the questions to begin with. And keep them coming. It's great to be able to spend the morning, even if there's not much to see, being able to interact with all parts of the world, from the United States, Canada, Hawaii, Australia, England, Europe, even Siberia sometimes. So we'll see you South African time, or Central African time, 4 o'clock, 1600 hours this afternoon. That is what, 9 hours from now? No? Yes, 9 hours from now, if I can count. And Scott and I will be taking you around to try and find some really wonderful things. Maybe we'll try and get to see that other Pride of Lion again. And until then, from me, Mark, and all of us here at WildEarth, I love you lot. Sweet dreams, good night, goodbye.